If you agree that dignity isn't measured by what someone wears, but by what they've survived and what they still carry, then like and subscribe, because this one deserves to be remembered. Every morning at 6:05, just after the second bus rumbled through Main and Chestnut, an old man settled onto the far end of the rusted metal bench outside the corner pharmacy. The locals called him Bus Bench Ray, but they never meant it kindly, just a throwaway label for a man who seemed like he'd been part of the sidewalk longer than the cracks in it. He wore the same army green jacket every day, sleeves faded to gray, hem frayed like paper. It bore no name patch, no rank insignia. Only three stitched initials, barely readable, RCH. No one knew what it meant. Some said it was a brand, others said it was just gibberish. Teenagers laughed as they passed, tossing jokes like pennies. "Hey, General," or "Lose the war, Grandpa." He never responded. He just sat, legs crossed, cane resting beside him, a battered spiral notebook in one hand and a stick in the other, which he used to draw strange, looping symbols in the dirt by his boots. Most assumed he was senile. Others said he was just another vet who never came back right. But no one asked. They never asked. The city planner, sleek in his blue suit and fast-talking attitude, called him a liability at a recent town meeting. He said the bench attracted loitering, that it lowered property value, that if the town wanted to beautify downtown, the bench and Ray had to go. Nobody objected. Not one. Except a girl. Her name was Lana. 12 years old, brown ponytail, backpack too heavy for her small frame, and a smile that didn't always reach her eyes. Her mother had deployed 6 weeks ago, third tour, and Lana had taken to walking herself home from school. Every day, she passed Ray, and every day, she split her lunch, half a sandwich, half a cookie, and one juice box. No words, just a quiet handoff. At first he didn't take it. Then one day he did. After that, it became routine. She'd sit beside him for 2 or 3 minutes, swinging her legs, while he scribbled in that notebook. She asked once what he was writing. He just smiled and said, "Keeping the line straight." She didn't know what that meant, but she liked the sound of it. Other kids whispered that she was weird, sitting with the bench man. She didn't care. "He says thank you without saying it," she told her teacher once. No one really understood her either. Then, on a chilly Tuesday, Lana arrived to find the bench gone. Just 2 holes where the legs had been bolted, the dirt freshly filled, and a new sign reading, "Future site of artisan bike rack, courtesy of the Downtown Renewal Project." Ray was gone too. No trace, no goodbye. She waited an hour. Then 2. That night, she posted a photo on her tiny public art account. A photo of the empty corner and a caption that read, "They took the bench. Does anyone know where Ray went?" Just a simple question. She didn't expect what happened next. Her post bounced, first among classmates, then strangers, then a retired mechanic from 3 counties over-commented, "That man once fixed my engine with a drawing and a pencil stub. Never asked for payment." Others followed. A woman recalled a silent man handing her brother a hand-drawn evacuation route during a wildfire evacuation. A park ranger swore the man once rerouted foot traffic around a landslide 2 hours before it happened. And then, quietly, someone posted a grainy, scanned photo, an old military briefing, mid-2000s, desert fatigues and dust. In the background stood a man, just out of focus, but unmistakably him. Same jawline, same steady posture, and those same 3 letters, RCH. The caption read, "Is this Bus Bench Ray?" And then everything changed. People started asking who he really was. A veteran? A ghost? A legend no one paid attention to? Lana, for her part, didn't care about any of that. She just missed the quiet man who once said her apple drawings reminded him of something worth staying for. But the rest of the town? They started paying attention, finally. Too late, maybe, because Ray was gone, and no one knew where. Until the black SUV rolled in. The photo of Ray in uniform didn't just go viral, it detonated. Within 48 hours, military forums, veteran subreddits, and even news stations started circling the story, not just because of the image, but because of the mystery behind it. Who was he? Who was this man who drew patrol routes in the dirt, sketched tactical diagrams on napkins, and vanished without a name? A retired major posted on a now-archived blog, "If that's who I think it is, that man saved my entire platoon with a red pen and a shoelace map." But official channels stayed silent. until the Pentagon quietly released a memo confirming that Colonel Raymond Charles Huntley had served for 33 years in strategic operations, classified postings only, and was awarded commendations. Currently unavailable for public disclosure. No rake. No final ceremony. Just vanished. A ghost with medals buried deeper than the files that documented them. Lana didn't understand the buzz. She just wanted to know if he was warm, if he was safe, if he had her crayon drawing of the sunset she gave him 2 days before the bench disappeared. But while she waited, others acted. A former logistics officer followed the breadcrumbs. Military pay stubs, a withdrawn pension, a VA benefit application never processed. That led to a shelter 2 towns over, a rundown brick building with no working heater, and an overworked manager who didn't realize the old man sleeping in room 12 had once built ghost corridors across war zones. The convoy came at night, 3 unmarked black SUVs, no sirens, no fanfare. They parked quietly outside the shelter while the residents watched from windows with wide eyes and whispering mouths. One man stepped out, gray suit, creased coat, combat infantryman badge on his lapel even in civilian clothes. He didn't ask for permission. He walked in. When they opened the door to room 12, Ray didn't flinch. He was already sitting upright, notebook in hand, as if he'd been waiting for someone to read it. He looked up. "Colonel Huntley," the man said, saluting. Ray raised his hand slowly, not a salute, but a quiet stop gesture. "Don't say the name too loud," he murmured. "I've finally got some peace." But the man stepped forward and knelt beside him. "Sir," he said, voice breaking, "the Pentagon sent me. We're not here for questions. We're here because it's time." Ray blinked, surprised. "Time for what?" The man handed him an envelope. Inside was a photo, a satellite image marked with hand-drawn red lines, raised lines. His notebook diagrams had been retrieved from a military op years ago, plans no one else could replicate. A recent breach in Allied communications traced back to a failed adaptation of one of his original doctrines. The Army wanted to consult him again, not out of obligation, but desperation. But Ray shook his head. "I already gave the best I had." Then he paused. "But if you're here, I guess it means they still don't understand the map." The man nodded. "They don't even see it's upside down." Ray chuckled softly, the first real sound he'd made in days. And just like that, he agreed to return, not in uniform, not as a symbol, but as the mind behind the curtain. The next morning, Fort Belridge issued a restricted base alert. Guest strategist en route under black level protocol. No name listed. No record created. But as the convoy rolled away, someone snapped a photo of Lana's sunset drawing pinned to Ray's duffel. And that was how they knew he hadn't forgotten. It wasn't a ceremony, or even an official meeting. Just a long, windowless room deep inside Fort Belridge, lined with strategy boards, intel dossiers, and 6 officers who didn't know they were about to be outclassed. Ray walked in without a uniform, without a badge, without even his cane, just that same notebook, worn now at the corners, and a pin clipped to its side. No one greeted him like a guest. They stood like they were in the presence of command. "You're reading it wrong," he said calmly, flipping open the files they'd spent 3 months struggling to decode. "This isn't an offensive maneuver, it's a retreat masquerading as aggression. They want you to chase them." His hand moved across the map with fluid ease, adjusting zones, flipping symbols, and finally circling a point no one had considered. "This," he said, "is where you'll lose people. Unless you pivot now." The room fell silent. Within 20 minutes, protocols changed. An entire overseas operation adjusted course that same night, saving 4 field agents from an ambush that had been waiting like a loaded trap. The next morning, the report was classified. No names listed. No official acknowledgement. Just one post-mission briefing with the words "strategy credit, Huntley." Ray didn't wait for praise. He left the base as quietly as he entered, a borrowed windbreaker zipped halfway and Lana's crayon-drawn sunset folded carefully between the pages of his notebook. He mailed it back to her, weeks later. Just that drawing, laminated, with a single note. "Keep watching. You see more than most." Back in town, things had shifted. The old bus stop had been replaced with a new stone bench, darker, heavier, engraved in brass. Colonel R.C. Huntley, he watched while others looked away. It stood under the same tree, just past the corner pharmacy, but now people stopped. Some to sit. Some just to look. A small weatherproof box was bolted to the side, labeled Community Notebook. Inside? Pages of stories from locals, memories of Ray, sketches of maps he used to draw, thank you letters from people who never spoke a word to him while he was there. And Lana? She sat at that bench most afternoons, a fresh notebook in her lap. Sometimes she wrote. Sometimes she just waited. And then, once a year, always without warning, a black SUV would roll through Main Street and slow beside the bench. Ray never got out. He didn't need to. But every time, someone else did, an officer, a recruit, a staff sergeant, and each would leave something behind. A medal, a folded flag, a sealed manila envelope. Once, just a single post-it note with 6 words, "Still using your maps. Thank you." And every time, when the SUV pulled away, Lana would tuck the newest item into the community box, lock it, and add a page to the town's Unseen Heroes binder, now kept at the local library, with its own waiting list for checkout. Because some legacies aren't loud. They're patient, built in layers of silence and service. And some men, like Ray, like Colonel Raymond Charles Huntley, never needed parades, just a place to sit, a map to draw, and a world that finally understood what he'd been guarding all along.